The first time I had a Samuel Adams Boston Lager, it was like, wow, what is this stuff?
Boston Lager, it was love at first taste.
It's got a nice hoppiness to it.
We're just literally shoving hops into our beer, and I think we're considered marginally insane. Most brewers have a dash of hops.
We used a pound of hops per barrel.
You know you're drinking a beer. It's not watery, you know, it's got something to it.
Boston Lager tastes full-bodied. Try a Sam Adams and know that that's what beer is supposed to taste like.
Don't be afraid of flavor, my man.
Hello there. You're probably wondering to yourself, what is going on? What does a beer ad have to do with a film clip entitled Trade Embargoes that I am making in response to Chapter 5 of your textbook, pages 157 to 160. Okay, you're probably thinking to yourself, Neil's gone a little Cypress Hill here, a little insane in the membrane, and went off the deep end. But that's not the reason. There actually is, to sort of cite Polonius from Shakespeare's Hamlet, a method to my madness. Basically, let's take a look at your textbook, and this is on page 157, chapter 5, where it says, the ultimate form of quota is an embargo. Okay. The title of my film clip. A government order forbidding exportation and or importation of a particular product or even all products of a particular country. For example, many countries control bacteria and disease by banning certain plants and agricultural products. Now, that's okay. It's not a lie or anything, but I'm going to argue that I think this is an example of a petitio principii. Okay, that begging the question. They're sort of taking it for granted that embargoes are a good thing, that this is what countries should do. For example, I mean, who in the right mind is going to say, I think we really should import that, a bunch of steaks from, let's say, United States, and it's all full of mad cow disease, because that's what I really want to eat. I don't want healthy steaks from, cows that were raised on a farm that just ate grass or something. I want to have mad cow disease. Of course, no one in their right mind is going to say that. So obviously no one's going to object with your textbook. I mean, what it says is, of course governments are going to do things like keeping out disease and bacteria and so on via importation. That's not controversial. Okay, so they're sort of taking that for granted. The reality is, of course, is that embargoes are actually highly controversial in many instances. And that's sort of the side of the story that's not really getting told. What I want to suggest is that embargoes are really more about politics and control than they are about necessarily about regulations concerning bacteria and so on. As a case in point, I'm going to take a look at American history, the Revolutionary War. Okay, that's why I have the British and American flags back there behind me, because those were the two belligerents, so to speak. You had the 13 colonies, of course. Weren't there back then only 13 stars on the flag, not the current 50 that my has, and of course England, United Kingdom, Britain. Okay. So that's why I did that. Now, the reason, of course, I put a beer ad from Samuel Adams at the beginning of this clip was because Samuel Adams, the guy, was actually the genius behind the American Revolution. I'm taking a lot of my stuff from this book called Samuel Adams, the Father of the American Revolution, by this guy, Mark Poles. This is a wonderful book, well written. This is actually a very, very interesting book, and it's sort of a biography, basically, of his life, and very interesting stuff. I also consulted some other sources, but that was my main source. And he was really the brains behind the concept of embargo. As a matter of fact, in that book, it actually makes this rather interesting statement. When he actually did this, there's actually no term in the English language that existed at the time to describe what he was doing. The term boycott, for instance, came into the English language in 1880, when it was coined, pertaining to some issue with in Ireland, I believe it was, if I remember correctly. To actually describe what he did, he came up with the term non-importation agreement. So he actually had to coin a new phrase because it didn't even exist at the time. So this is kind of revolution. That's why it was revolutionary change. No question about it. Now, what actually happened was in 1748, in March of that year, his father died. Now, Samuel was 26 years old at the time, and what happened was he had to basically take over his father's shoes. And so he had to take over the responsibility of dealing with their family affairs, because they were involved, the Adams were involved in a lot of lawsuits. People were suing them for stuff. And also had to take over the family brewery. Okay, so that's the link between the beer and him. So this 26-year-old guy had to take over this brewery. And so just prior to this, he had gone to university, Harvard, because this is in Boston, right? And he got his master's degree, bachelor and master's degrees. And he started out thinking he was going to go join the ministry, actually, to become a church minister. Decided that that's not the way he wanted to go, and he ended up being more focused on politics and political thought. Okay, so I'm going to now point out what he actually ended up doing. Was then, of course, as time went on, he actually drove his beer business into the ground, because important business lesson was that he wasn't very aggressive in collecting money that people owed him. Right? In modern parlance, modern expressions, you'd say it's very important for businesses, working capital management, to collect your accounts receivable and so on. And that's basically what he failed to do. He wasn't aggressive collecting money that people owed him, collecting those debts. And so he went bankrupt, unfortunately. I'm going to stop it now and make this into a second clip, because I just want to, that's what I'm going to do.